So basically, I knew this dude who ended up catching an SA case over something that was completely consensual. Because basically, what happened, it was about half consensual. You'll see exactly what I mean. Okay, so basically, this was college. He was in his dorm, and then some girl invited him to her dorm. And basically, he went to the dorm. They had some relations, right? He was using his hands, like we all gather, like what I'm talking about here. So basically, he used his hands, and then like he took it out, and then he was like, "Ew, this smells." So he went around the dorm telling everyone like, yo, like smell my finger, like this girl smells so bad. So then after that, because she was mad that like everyone like found out that she smelled, she claimed that it wasn't consensual. Like, isn't that horrible? Here's my stance on that. Okay, obviously the proceedings were consensual, right? But you know, if it stinks, I feel like as a man, you low-key got to put up with that. Not put up with it in the sense where it's like you have to go through with anything, because obviously your consent matters too. But like you can't go around running around, hey everybody, smell how bad it stinks, smell how bad it stinks. Because how's and by the way, this guy not good looking, okay, not very handsome, but he was very large. He was like 6'7", like 300 pounds. So for one, I don't know what that 6'7", I don't know what the woman was thinking. But it's like also as a young lady, it's like freshen up down there a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it's a bit No, I'm just saying, like, if it's gonna be that bad to the point where he feels like he has to show people, like, imagine. Interesting. What he did was absolutely wrong. Okay, I'm not defending that, and obviously, you know, there's some minutia to like, you know, freshening up down there. But I'm just saying, like, personally, if my meat smelled so bad to the fact that like someone felt like they had to like share it with others, I think I gotta analyze my meat and how my meat is stinking. Actually, I knew a guy whose meat smelled so bad, like everybody knew about it. When I tell you, this dude's meat smelled so bad, like we were never safe. Like if he was wearing shorts, everyone was finished. Okay, like if you were sitting across from him, you would be able to smell it. Like one time, I was in the weight room, right, and I was benching, and basically, I was like, I need a spotter, and he went to spot me. It was the worst smell in the world. Okay, I almost dropped the weight on my chest. It's like, how do you let it get to that point? And see, if I was for one, I don't know how a woman would get that close to it, but also, it's like, if I was a woman and like it smelled that bad, I feel like I would definitely like I would be like, yo, like it smelled like that bad. You know what I mean? Because again, it's one thing, you know, if it's not fresh, okay? Again, you just worked out, maybe it's not fresh. But it's like if it is like rancid to the point where like I want to like gag, you simply have to do something about that, okay? And again, that doesn't justify, you know, running around, hey, smell my finger, smell my finger, smell my finger. But I'm just saying, you know, take care of what you got to take care of. Like two wrongs definitely don't make a right, but like just because one wrong was like a lot more than the other wrong doesn't make that one thing less wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like again, like it's just slightly disrespectful to, you know, go to somebody knowing darn well that you stink down there, or knowing darn well that you didn't check to see if you stunk. Especially at the age where it's like you're a grown adult, okay? You're grown enough to be like moving around, you know, you might even be drinking, you're completely active. Come on, like you got to lock in on your hygiene down there. There are times where I've come into situations where basically like like you know, like when like you hit an animal on the side of the road and then, like it starts to like smell, and then you're like, oh man, like someone's got to take care of that. Like literally, it smelled like something wasn't alive in there. You wonder how these pH balanced bandits get away with it until adulthood. You know what I mean? It's just it's unacceptable. There's just something about stinking. Like there's nothing like it might be better to be like poor than to stink. Because the thing about stink is like it says so much about you while saying nothing about you. Because like it's like you look at stinky people and you're like, bro, like do you even take care of yourself? Oh my gosh, one time I was in the hospital and this one dude, he was smelling so bad. Okay, I was in a unit for my eating problems, and this dude like he would just like sit down all day. People would walk past him, he would smell. When we would go to get food, he would smell. One time he was arguing with one of the nurses, and here's the thing, I did not hear the whole conversation, but all I heard him say was, you're just gonna make me shower anyway, so I don't even care. Like they were begging this man to shower, and he refused to shower, refused to change his clothes. Like they genuinely had to like force him to. It's like, I understand we're in a hospital, like you might not be feeling the best, but it's like, bro, like come on, it's the little things. It's the little things that like you got to remind yourself you're a human being and it's gonna be okay. I feel like no matter where you are in life, that's something you got to think about, okay? Because personally, like me, I have a horrible sense of smell. I can barely smell anything. So I'm always super paranoid that like I put like extra like smelling stuff on me to make sure I'm not stinking. Nowadays, if I'm going somewhere with any sort of external stimuli, if I leave my house, I refuse to not shower. And also when I get home and like I have like the outside like smell on me, I refuse to not shower before I go to bed. No, something that really bothers me is when people like come to me about like the frequency of my showers. Like when I bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, morning, night, like if I do something in the middle of the day, blah, 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 blah. And they try to tell me it's too much. Like, bro, like you're just a dirty dude, bro. Like, don't come to me with that. Anyways, it's actually so crazy about the guy I told you, you know, who did the stuff and then told everyone to smell his finger. Like, his life genuinely got ruined over that, okay? Now, here's the thing. It was his stupid decision. Like, not saying it warrants, like, saying, like, someone, like, SA'd you or something wasn't consensual when it wasn't consensual, but it's like, you did do something, like, really stupid, you know? And you kind of, like, I feel like if she just would have told people, like, it would have got around that. That's what he did. I feel like he might have ruined his life anyways. That's just a weird thing to do. Like, if you're that kind of guy, like, trouble is just bound to follow you. But speaking of consent, I remember there was this weird situation where I was walking with these two young ladies, right? Like they're my friends. And then this guy came up to one of my friends and he started shaking her. Now, mind you, they knew each other. Like they kind of greeted each other from a distance. So when he went up and started shaking her, I was like, oh, like this must just be their thing. Like I thought it was consensual shaking. Me and the other girl just walked off and we are like, oh yeah, like that was weird. Like why was he doing that? But then like she like caught up with us, the girl who was getting shook, and she was like, guys, like why was he shaking me like that? And I felt so bad because I'm like, I could have like easily, it was like a very like small man shaking her. So I'm like, bro, like I totally could have protected her from that guy shaking her, but I was like, I didn't know. The thing is, I know what you're thinking. Oh, like, you know, when you saw him shaking her, you should have just assumed. And here's the thing. The problem is, I feel like I've run into situations where there's like men like roughhousing with women in ways that I wouldn't deem to be acceptable, but the women are like, tee hee ha ha, I love this. Genuinely though, like I remember one time, like my nemesis, like he wasn't my nemesis at the time, like he was my friend at the time. We had a bunch of girls over at the crib, right? And he was like body slamming them onto the bed. And I'm like, yo, this is weird. Like I pulled one of them aside. I was like, yo, like what's going on here? And she was like, oh no, like it's good. I think it's fun. I'm like, what? Like that's just crazy to me because personally, I could never see myself like roughhousing with a woman. Obviously, like outside the bedroom, like consensually, all that kind of stuff. But like, you know what I mean? Like I could never see myself just like play like wrestling with a woman. Especially in that instance, he met those girls that day and was body slamming them on the bed off the rip. Mind you, this guy, not like appetizing, okay? So it's not even like a pretty privilege thing or like the halo effect. Like straight up, like he didn't look good. I was about to say something worse, but like he did not look good. Because at that moment where deep down I knew I couldn't be friends with bro. Okay, I should have known by how he looked, but it, like when I saw him like body slamming women, I was like, nah, like I can't do that. Then things I knew this other. I don't know if like body slamming women is like a popular thing amongst most men, but the thing is, I knew this other dude where he was at this party, right? And basically like girls kept dancing on him because he was a handsome man, and like at one point he was really saucy. He was like, the next girl to dance on me, I'm a body slammer, and then he did it. I'm like, bro, what's wrong with you? And the crazy part, she didn't seem to care. She seemed to think it was funny, and I'm like, bro, like what's going on? Like I feel like there are certain things that like happen at functions, at parties that like you just can't explain. Okay, I remember one time I was at this function. It was a pool party, right? There was one big girl at the pool party and everyone was plotting. Like at first they tried to get me to do it. They're like, yo, but like Bryce, like push her into the pool. And for one, I'm like, I'm a scrawny guy, like I'm very skinny. If I miss, you know, like one, it would be embarrassing, and two, well, she gets mad, throws me in the pool. But also, more importantly, what if she doesn't like being pushed in the pool and I'm known as the guy who pushed her in the pool? But they're going around recruiting people. They're like, yo, like, yeah, we're gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. So like 4 dudes like walk up to her and end up pushing her in the pool. And like when she gets pushed in the pool, you know, big splash, you know, she's a bigger gal. And then like everyone was like erupting with like applause. I'm like, bro, like what are we on as a society? Not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure she was pregnant at the time. Not gonna lie, I think that may have been why they wanted to push her in the pool so bad. Like, cause we all knew like the father. So I think maybe they were trying to make some stuff happen, which is kind of really dark, like now that I'm thinking about it. And here's the thing, okay, at the time, we didn't exactly know who the father was. We knew it was someone we knew, though. And the thing is, like, she was very weird, very cryptic about who the father was. Like, she was treating it like a game show. She was like, oh, like, the father is one of you, but I'm not saying who. It's like, what are you doing? Like, do you think this is a game, okay? Like, you're playing with people's lives, okay? But I guess it was fun because everyone was like, you know, a D1 college football player, you know, possibly going to the NFL, so she thought it was just like tee hee ha ha, you know, wanted to see us, like, erupt in flames, but it's like, no. Gosh, guys, that reminds me of one of the biggest scandals I've ever been a part of, okay? Basically, when I was on the football team, one day this IG account came up, and it was like posting, and it was like following a bunch of people, and it was basically showing like guys in the locker room. It was dudes on the team changing and whatnot, and they're like, oh, you know, I actually have so much more, you know, at such and such date, I'm gonna drop this Dropbox link, and it's gonna have all this stuff in here. Now, mind you, at this time, I wasn't in the main locker room because it was when that virus was still a big deal, and I was not vaccinated, okay? Not for any particular reason, I just happened to not be, right? So basically, actually, I'm not gonna get it. No, I was being stubborn, okay? The thing is, they kept trying to force me to get it. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of person where it's like, if I'm gonna do something and then you tell me to do it now, I don't want to do it. And that's essentially what happened, like in so few words. Of course, it was a very big deal when the vaccine came out, right? And basically, everyone was like, oh, you know, like, I don't know, like, is it ready, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, there are the other people who are like, yep, I'm gonna take it right now, whatever, whatever. The thing is, our coach wanted us all to get vaccinated, right? But about half the team did it like at first, and everyone else, they were like a little worried. Like, they're like, oh, you know, like, what if something happened? Like, again, it wasn't very like tried and true tested at this point in time. The thing is, my coach, he was like pressuring people who were very uncomfortable with getting the vaccine to get the vaccine, okay? And that was very like irritating to me because I know those people, like I knew those dudes, they would never like actually stand up for themselves, like when an authority figure is telling them to do something. So I felt like I had to be extra difficult because like there are legitimately dudes who were like horrified. They're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared, like what if the vaccine does this, this, and that? And I'm like, if you're horrified to get it, as long as you're being responsible, you shouldn't have to get it. Now, mind you, the thing is, if there was like a decree, like if the coach was like, yo, like to stay on the team, we're making it mandatory that you get the vaccine, I would have got the vaccine along with anybody else. But what I didn't like is he tried to weasel his way through it, being like, look, like you don't have to get it, but like, we want you to get it. And they very much try to make everyone who didn't get it their life like extremely harder. I have a big problem with people who won't just like give it to me straight, like say it how it is. It's like, again, if you want everyone to have it, say like everyone has to have it. Like say like that's the thing, okay? But the fact that you're trying to be some sort of like, oh, it's up to you, like it's your choice, like do whatever you want to do, but really like you're very much like pressuring and bullying a bunch of people into doing something that they're legitimately afraid of doing. That's when I feel like I have to stand up for them. Now, mind you, did any of my teammates know or care that or appreciate that I was doing this? No, okay? But the thing is, the more like he kept pushing me and being like, oh, because again, like I said, we were in a different locker room than anyone else. We didn't have to do that. He literally like segregated us, okay? We would eat in different places. I'd have to like sit and we'd have to watch film in a different room. We'd have to be like zoomed in. It just got to the point where with him, and then again, like just meetings, you know what I mean? And then he would just like say those things where it's like, Oh, I remember this one meeting specifically where I told him, I was like, look, if it's required, I would absolutely take it. But since you're not requiring it, I'm not going to take it. And then he said something like, oh, but like, what if we start like making you guys like pay for your own tests? And I was like, honestly, if you started making us pay for our own tests, I would indeed get the vaccine because I don't want to pay for that. And then he was like, oh, if money would change your view so quickly, then clearly you don't have that much of a strong stance on it anyways. And I'm like, no, I do. It's just, I'm not like you. I don't have some like $10 million contract sitting around where I can just, throw money at tests because I don't want to get a vaccine. And mind you, he would threaten that. And I literally told him, I was like, look, if you do that, I will indeed get the vaccine. But he never did it, okay? He was just flapping his gums, okay? It was a stunt. I'll tell you, football did not go to best for me by any means necessary, but I stood on business every time I had to. Okay, but basically, back to the story, all right? Again, we're in a different locker room, but everything, all the pictures that are being like posted on that Instagram account where they're like, oh, we have more pictures of like the men in the locker room, blah, 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 blah. That's in the main locker room. So this whole like stuff is going on. Like people are panicking. They're like, oh, like what videos, what pictures do they have? Like what's up with this? This is so scary, blah, blah, blah. Me and like the other unvaccinated people, we were cooling because we knew it wasn't our locker room. So it's like I'm watching, I'm like, okay, like this definitely sucks for you guys, but like I low-key am like just like thank God like I'm not in that locker room. So it's like I don't even have to worry about it to that extent. Basically, we found out what happened is there was this person who would go on Tinder and try to catfish a bunch of football players, right? As a matter of fact, I matched with that person on Tinder, tried to catfish me, basically didn't work. What this person would do is they'd match with someone on Tinder, they'd ask that person for a meat pic, and they'd be like, oh, you can send it on Snapchat so it disappears, blah, 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 blah. And if you send the meat pic, they would like screenshot it and then basically blackmail you, say like, oh, I'm gonna post this to like, all these like public spaces, like if you don't do XYZ. XYZ was basically like taking more pictures, okay? Like basically I had 2 roommates who got caught up by it and they didn't like fall for it. Like once they sent the meat picture, they were like, yeah, like I'm not giving you any more. They just like blocked the account. And then once they posted it, like they like flagged it, right? Like they kept reporting it until it went down. The dude who did get caught up, okay, again, he sent the meat picture and they're like, oh, like send me a picture of like, your hole. And then he sent a picture of the hole. And then like you can see how it's like a snowball effect. It's like they're blackmailing you over this one thing. You don't want them to see that. Now it's like you're doing a whole bunch of other stuff that more people you don't want them to see. Basically, it gets up to the point where this dude is straight up like blackmailed into recording in the locker room, right? With like unbeknownst to anybody there, like he's like hiding his phone, like, oh, he literally went into the shower, recorded people. And by the way, the way I avoided this, when they asked for the meat picture, I knew this was after it had already happened to my roommates. For one, I don't send meat pictures, but like it was after it already happened, so I just knew. I was like, yeah, nah, I'm not falling for this. Anyways, that guy gets blackmailed into the pictures of the locker room, right? Basically, IG accounts get set up. They're like, oh, like this Tuesday at such and such time, there's going to be a Dropbox link, and it's going to be all like the pictures and videos. Then the day comes, it drops. The police had already been contacted about the situation because like the team pretty much had to like tell coach, obviously. So then like it pretty much got shut down immediately and just like swept clean. Like no one really saw anything. But when I tell you, when they found out the guy who did it, because the thing is, like, they looked at, like, where the pictures were in the locker room. They're like, oh, like, this is so-and-so's locker. Like, this is, like, right next to so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. They did quick math. They literally went to bro's apartment looking for him. By then, he had already escaped with his girl and driven, I don't even know where. They busted into his room, right? And they stole everything this man had to his name. His TVs, his PlayStation 5, clothes, literally everything just completely stolen from bro. Not gonna lie, he got off lucky because mind you, these are a bunch of Division I Power 5 football players. So if they would have found bro, and he was a DB, if they would have found bro, he would have been cooked. He would have been finished. But yeah, y'all, that was a crazy time, all the drama. But yeah, that's pretty much this video. I'm wrapping it up right here. I know this is a little bit more scatterbrained, a little less structured, not usually like the normal content. But again, I want to make sure I got something out to you guys today, but I knew I wouldn't really have the time to record something more long and like thoughtful. I just gave you a little bit of yaps about random things that happened in my life. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm gonna call this video, but I'll figure it out. And also, since CapCut got shut down, I'm gonna be using new editing software. So if anything's like clunky or weird, that's why. But like I'll figure it out. So because again, I also didn't have time to like completely learn the software. But yeah, y'all. Again, daily uploads. I'm glad that I'm staying committed to it, and I'm glad that like I'm still growing and just putting on a day after day after a day. I'm loving it. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Everything I have to say. I'm so sorry, and I love you. Okay, have an excellent day, night, evening.